Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Dave Beats Everything. My name is Dave, and today on my quest to beat everything, we will be starting a playthrough of Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader, an incredible CRPG by the developer Owlcat Games. Rogue Trader is a story-driven, isometric, turn-based RPG set in the grim darkness of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. In it, you play as a rogue trader, a heavily empowered agent of the Imperium that holds a special relic granting them freedom to explore, trade, conquer, and even deal with aliens beyond the restrictions of normal Imperial law. Throughout the game, we will be exploring a small portion of the wider galaxy known as the Koronus Expanse, making choices that will shape both the story and the fates of our crew. As of the day of recording, there are currently 3 of the 4 announced DLCs available, and we will be playing with all 3 of them active. This includes Void Shadows, Lex Imperialis, and the new DLC, the Infinite Museion. As the name Dave Beats Everything might suggest, we will be going for as close to 100% completion as is possible in a single playthrough of the game. This includes playing on the hardest difficulty preset available, achieving all possible achievements in that single playthrough, and seeing as much of the game as is possible. Due to the nature of this rule set, we will not be playing with Grim Darkness enabled. While it is possible to achieve my goals with this setting enabled, I feel it best to keep it off. I would rather not lose potentially 100 plus hours of gameplay to a slim chance of save corruption or accidentally clicking an incorrect dialogue option. We will be playing as a custom character, as I have something very specific in mind, and I feel like none of the presets really represent the idea that I'm going for. Now, as we speed through creating our character, some of you may pick up on the type of character we will be playing. If the portrait didn't give it away, then I'm sure some of the tattoos, and definitely the choice of voice, will. For our homeworld options, we have a few choices, but only one of them really speaks to what I'm going for. Voidborn is the choice I will be going for here. The increase to willpower and intelligence will play nicely with our upcoming origin choice. The only other homeworld option that would fit in this case would be the Imperial world, although the names of the features and general flavor here doesn't really mesh with the vision that I have for this character. As some of you may have suspected, the origin we will be going for is the Sanctioned Psyker origin. This is mainly due to an achievement that is only obtainable by this origin and requires the Rogue Trader to be this origin. This is the only achievement of its kind that I'm aware of, so by choosing this origin, we're not going to be missing out on any other origin-specific achievements, because they don't exist. While Sanctic may be a more meta choice, I feel the ability names alone don't really gel with the kind of character that I'm going for. Things like Shield of the Emperor and Hammer of the Emperor. So in this case, we will be going with Biomancer. This seems a bit more of a fitting choice for the character that I want to portray. Both the Triumph and the Darkest Hour are slightly more minor choices here. We will be taking the +5 persuasion bonus from Illustrious Glory, and the -5 to Lore of the Warp from the Shadows of Torment Darkest Hour. For the archetype, the usual officer into Grand Strategist is the meta pick here, but we will instead be choosing Warrior for our Tier 1 archetype. This should pair nicely with our melee focus as a Biomancer. The last major choice in character creation is the characteristics. We will be putting an additional 10 into willpower to buff our Psyker abilities, 10 into toughness to aid us in melee fights, and 10 into weapon skill to increase our parry chance as well as our chance to hit and critical chance with melee weapons. Now we get to choose our Void Ship. This choice is more of a cosmetic one. The Void Ship is upgradable later on in the game, so the choice here doesn't really matter too much. We will be going with the Sword class frigate, as I feel that the Firestorm class frigate gives more of a loyalist vibe, or someone who is a bit more tied to the Imperium than the character that I want to get across. We will also need to name our Void Ship, and I think something like the Unrelenting feels pretty spot on for this character. Now we reach the end of the character creation process. The last thing we need to do is give our character a befitting name. I'm going to go with Kassius Voss-Kaine. Sounds about right for someone of his station. And here we have it. Our character is ready to head out into the Koronus Expanse and make a name for himself. He has a pretty decent weapon skills, some good willpower and toughness, and carouse is his standout skill right now. The prologue for this game is quite dialogue heavy at the start, so I will keep my interruptions to a minimum and only interrupt when necessary.
An excellent place for contemplation. One has the best view of the cathedral from here. Mesmerizing, wouldn't you say? An impeccable manifestation of the God Emperor's sublimity.
And here we are, dropped straight into a conversation with Kunrad Voigtgeir. And we're going to go with the third option here, just to kind of solidify our character.
An interesting perspective. However, allow me to offer you a bit of advice. In the interests of your own well-being, you should frame your thoughts with greater piety. Demonstrating such a lack of care when choosing your words might be viewed by certain people as evidence of insufficient trepidation before the God Emperor, the master of humanity.
And you seem to attach much importance to words. Well, I have a fondness for names, and I have yet to hear yours.
My apologies. The statements you made were so intriguing that I forgot myself. Allow me to introduce myself. Kunrad Voigtgeir, Master of Whispers, in the employ of Her Ladyship Rogue Trader Theodora von Valancius, at your service. I haven't had the pleasure of speaking with you in person before.
Let's let him know that we are a sanctioned psyker.
I am aware of that fact. It would have been unacceptable negligence to have overlooked such a detail when compiling your profile. Fate bestowed upon you powers of witchcraft, and a duty to use them for the good of the Imperium. Yours is truly an unenviable lot. I will be frank with you. You may forget your past titles, no matter who gave them to you, or what their origins are. From the moment you and the other candidate were brought aboard this void ship, your fate changed. You now serve Lord Captain Theodora von Valancius, and carry the burden of an heir of this house. Henceforth, you share your dynastic name with Her Ladyship. Bear it with honor.
Lord Captain, a strange title for the Lady Theodora.
Such are the traditions of the Imperium. Lord Captain is the title that was established in the annals of the Lex Imperialis, at the time when the first rogue traders entered the God Emperor's service. And therefore, it is sacrosanct.
Why am I aboard this vessel? Why have I been brought here?
So that you may fulfill your blood duty. Whatever obligations you had before, they are henceforth null and void. By order of the Lord Captain, you have been requisitioned to serve the rogue trader, indeed blessed by the God Emperor. Your former position may have been different from conventional service as part of one of the institutions of the Imperium, but from now on, a different fate awaits you. One chosen for you by the Lord Captain. I advise you to come to terms with this reality as quickly as possible.
Master of Whispers, a curious title. What are your responsibilities?
To put it plainly, I am the head of the network of spies and informers who serve the interests of House von Valancius. I uncover weak links both among Lady Theodora's retinue and in the ranks of her rivals. I eliminate our vulnerabilities and exploit those of others.
Tell me about the one whose ship I find myself on.
I would rather not discuss the Lord Captain behind her back, especially not on board her ship. No one knows better than I that whispers are wont to attract particularly close attention. Suffice it to say that her ladyship is the bearer of the sacred warrant of trade and a woman of immense power and entitlement. However privileged your position may be, I ask that you do not incur her anger by being disrespectful or obtuse. Lady Theodora despises both qualities.
You say I am one of the heirs, so there is another candidate?
There is. And you will meet him soon enough.
I assume you had some goal in mind when you sought me out. Let's address it.
But of course, I have come to invite you to a meeting with Lady Theodora. I imagine you have many questions for your patroness, and I'm sure she has just as many questions for you. It is regrettable that you haven't yet had an opportunity to speak. It has been an arduous voyage thus far. The Lord Captain and Master Edelthrad von Valancius are conversing on the observation platform. Let us join them there.
And now we get to see the game proper. So this is a standard CRPG, much like many other CRPGs. It's an isometric view. You've got your taskbar along with your actions, and you navigate the world by clicking and interacting with different objects. This world is made up of a lot of points of interest, like this table, for example, that we can click on and glean a little bit more information. But for the most part, it's a lot of flavor. If anything pops up that is of importance or affecting of the story, I will be sure to point it out to you.
One of the von Valancius trophy rooms. Perhaps you would like to take a look around after your audience with the Lord Captain.
What's happening? Run! The servitors have gone berserk!
And now we get into our first combat of the playthrough. Combat in this game is handled on a square grid, and at the beginning of each combat interaction, you can usually place your party somewhere within a starting area. Although in this case, that's not the case because we got ambushed. This is the combat tutorial, and therefore it's fairly straightforward. A single enemy who is going to make quick work of these crewmen. As this is a tutorial, there's very little that we can do. Kunrad is going to very frequently just use his Analyze Enemies ability. And there's not really much that we can do as a character here using only our ranged weapon. A 45% chance to hit here isn't particularly good, although we do manage to get that off. We can speed through this combat encounter, as most of the turns are going to be the Servitor approaching, killing the remaining crew members, and then as we do very little damage, this is quite a scripted fight. Once the Servitor gets close to Kunrad, he actually starts attacking, and the Servitor doesn't really attack us, so there's no risk here.
What suspiciously poor timing for such an accident. Servitors malfunction on the officer's deck at exactly the same moment when the rogue trader and her heirs are gathered here. I have blocked all passages between the upper and lower sectors of the residential decks. If this is a deliberate attack, it should stop the culprits from advancing their plan. I'm afraid I must remain here. For Lady Theodora's safety, I have to oversee the execution of these orders personally. I hope you will have no difficulty reaching the observation platform on your own. It is just at the end of this corridor.
And now we're finally left to our own devices to do what we see fit. There's not really much to do in this room aside from exploring and checking out some of the lore dialogue tied to some of these artifacts that the rogue trader has gathered up. So we'll take some time to run around and interact with these.
The world will bow.
Now that we've checked out all of those, we can go through these doors and pass through towards the officer's deck. Then just up ahead, we're finally introduced to the rogue trader herself.
That is simply irrational, Lady Theodora. Assimilation into the trade structure would be political and economic suicide. Practically an admission of heresy.
Then suggest an alternative that will satisfy me. I have described the situation. No worse than my seneschal could have done. Make a decision. What will you do with Ion 6, Edelthrad? While you are considering your answer, Edelthrad, I wish to speak with someone else. Perhaps I shall hear something more interesting than incoherent mumbling. Approach.
What is this? Is this someone from your retinue, Theodora? Do you permit your people to interrupt your conversations in such a fashion?
I give that permission to those with something of substance to say. Let us see if it was worth it. This is the second candidate for the title of my successor. Step forward. Consider this hypothetical situation. Ion 6. A new world on the fringes of the Koronus Expanse. High seismic activity, regular magma eruptions, metamorphic rock deposits, prospects for large-scale mining. The world is populated by natives who worship some heretical underworld spirits that protect those who offer them sacrifices. Flights of fancy, you might say, but attempts to install ore extractors have failed for the second time. The mining crews sent to the planet's surface simply vanished overnight. My question to you is, what would you do with this poisoned treasure?
And here we get a look at some of the more skill-based dialogue options. We're given two options here to either choose between our Xenos or our Warp lore in response to Theodora's question. There are some other options here, but none of them use any skills, so I think we're going to make use of that and choose the Xenos option. Those spirits could well be the natives' name for dangerous aliens. I would first verify if that is indeed the case and if the population of Ion 6 engages in Xeno worship.
Reasonable and prudent. However, chasing after ethereal creatures may prove a rather long and fruitless endeavor.
Apart from Xenos, an untrodden planet might be teeming with myriad horrors that are far more dangerous and difficult to eradicate. I suspect that you are simply unaware of their existence.
Here we'll continue down the path of our antagonistic character arc, and we'll go with the third option.
Well, I find your company disagreeable, and yet I'm forced to endure such.
Edelthrad, I believe I gave you an assignment on this ship. Explain to me then why my senior congregator is still dawdling about the officer's deck, instead of proceeding to the middle decks to commence the inspection of the compartments in his purview.
I beg your forgiveness, Lady Theodora. Your presence has such a profound effect on me that I well forgot the time.
So, why are you here?
We'll stick with our blunt choices here, and in this case we're going to go with the option 2.
You are direct. I approve. But you will have to wait. There is something I want you to understand first. My name is Theodora von Valancius Massimo of Scaris. I am a rogue trader in the service of the God Emperor of humanity. And my rights and freedoms are vindicated by a most sacred relic. The Warrant of Trade, kept aboard this very vessel. Mine is the honor to venture into the darkness, beyond the Imperium, and carry humanity's light where powers wicked and heretical reign, and bow death and ruin to us all. It is my decision alone to determine the fate of whatever I find past the bounds of the explored void. Every world I discover, along with all there is to find thereon. Resources, people, riches, and mysteries is mine by right. I command millions of lives, rule over numerous planets, and possess fortunes that no planetary governor or commander could dream of amassing. And you are one of those with von Valancius blood in their veins and a rightful claim to this inheritance when the hour comes.
I'm going to take the selfish option here and ask about these other heirs.
Naturally. Some have yet to arrive on board, but you have had the pleasure of meeting one of them. Ethelthrad may be somewhat disconcerted by the scale of the responsibilities that may potentially fall upon his shoulders. However, I have a good feeling about him as a candidate. Blood right alone is not enough to earn the high honor of becoming the bearer of a warrant of trade. Nonetheless, your abilities and talents may yet prove useful. If not for the role of Lord Captain, then for that of their closest ally. Alas, even those responsibilities can at times be too challenging for those who share your blood. Kunrad Vs served me for many years before he made his mistake. His kinship to me is most distant, as is yours. Nonetheless, he does bear the name von Valancius, even if he avoids using it publicly, and as such, strictly speaking, can be considered my heir. That door, however, is closed to him. Vs' performance in his current role is satisfactory. Or it used to be, at least. Impatience. I am rather fond of impatient people. They are not as quick to resign themselves to circumstance and more eager to show initiative. Even if I do choose Ethelthrad as my successor, I will still require loyal advisors. The skills and knowledge you acquired in your former life may prove invaluable here, in the Koronus Expanse. It says in your profile that you bear the brand of sorcery, albeit sanctioned sorcery that is permitted in the service of the Imperium. I am accustomed to the presence of psychos at my side. More than that, I value their unique abilities highly. Perhaps that is why I am so intrigued by Ethelthrad's candidacy. A rogue trader psyker could achieve great things indeed. However, psychos are fragile creatures, and as such I would rather have a replacement standing ready in the event that something happens to Ethelthrad. Moreover, even changing your family name will not rid you of the fame you previously garnered. I hope it will also help you bring glory to the von Valancius dynasty, to which you now belong.
And now, maybe I can ask my questions.
I have some time before the navigator gives the signal to initiate the void ship's translation out of the warp and my presence acquired on the bridge. Sometimes I forget that people without direct access to a ship's bridge may not know the first thing about how a void ship travels between the stars. Vessels such as this one are capable of leaving real space and traversing into the warp, an otherworldly dimension of cruel and unthinkable forces. By entering it under the protection of the Gellerfield, we shorten the route to our destination, crossing distances that would require hundreds of years in a matter of weeks instead, sometimes in days or even hours. That is how humanity spread across the galaxy. That is how we were able to build the Imperium, which spans millions of stars.
Let's make her aware of the attack of the servitors.
Is that so? Perhaps the technomats were careless during maintenance. Or it could be the warp playing tricks on us in spite of the Gellerfield. Or perhaps there is something to all the stories about the ship being possessed after all.
Lady Theodora, for the God Emperor's sake, surely you do not intend to start repeating idle rumors spread about by uneducated riffraff.
Now, enough, Abelard. Such hearsay amuses me. Idira eagerly retells me everything she learns from the whispers of her unseen advisors. This ship is ancient. It has enough hidden nooks, malfunctioning cogitators, and unused compartments to make ignorant folks speak of specters dwelling inside the bulkheads and plotting against those who yet live.
And where is the ship headed?
The Rykad system, the domain of rogue trader Winterscale, one of my peers, and rivals. Besides me, 2 other rogue traders exist in the Koronus Expanse, and each of them possesses resources comparable to mine. Perhaps you will one day assist House von Valancius in surpassing both of them in affluence and splendor. I set the course for Rykad on the demand for a very specific reason. Perhaps I shall yet apprise you of the purpose for this voyage, but now is not the time.
Let's see what we've gotten ourselves into.
Observe, learn, absorb. It will take time for you to find your bearings aboard this vessel and in your new position. Eventually, I will find a post that suits you as I did for Edelthrad. Until that time comes, consider yourself my aid.
And I think with that, I have no more questions.
In that case, I shall head to... Disturbances reported on the adjacent decks. Seneschal, if the need arises, protect the new blood. It is possible that the chance to prove your worth may present itself sooner than you may have anticipated.
Once again, we find ourselves in another combat encounter. Similar to the last one, however, we are ambushed, so we can't change our starting position. This is another fairly scripted combat encounter where the NPCs do a lot of the heavy lifting. All we can really do is stay alive and do a little bit of chip damage wherever possible. For the sake of brevity, I'm going to speed this up. This should be the last scripted combat encounter that we can't really do much in. Going forward, I will not be speeding them up as much.
Mort, take a team with you and clear a path to the transport line. Do not let a single whoreson survive. Didn't bat an eye when that scum burst onto the deck, huh? Not bad. I have seen many an officer who panicked at the sight of combat on the upper decks. The false sense of security offered by their position makes them that much more vulnerable to the harsh realities of warp travel. Mort has gone on ahead to clear a path for us. If you want to make yourself useful, go after him and see if the Arch-Militant requires aid. And be quick about it.
Now we quickly just run ahead to meet up with the Arch-Militant and see if we can be of any assistance when driving back the cultists. And here we have a familiar face showing back up. I wonder what he's been up to.
Thank Providence you are alive and well.
Always on time, eh, Kunrad? The moment we finish chasing the riffraff around the deck, you show up. Always just after the fighting's done. You could set your chrono by it.
Mort, hold yourself together.
What, did the Lord Captain send you to chivvy us along? We're all done here. I'll report right away.
Master of Whispers, what is happening on my ship? The Voxnet is silent. The Voxmaster is not responding. Armed assailants have stormed the officer's deck, and my arch-militant just destroyed several more heretics on the way here. Is this a severe case of warp madness? Have some of my crew lost their minds and forgotten who they are and whom they serve? Report!
I have not yet received word from the Engineerium regarding any Gellerfield failures, but communications were already unstable half an hour ago, and now they have ceased altogether. Whatever the cause may be, the consequences are spreading fast. I am receiving scattered reports from the middle decks, and the only voxcasts from the lower bays are one-way heretical gibberish. That the madmen have already reached the officer's deck suggests that this outrage was planned in advance. Perhaps this is an organized mutiny.
If this is indeed a severe case of warp madness, then the situation is dire.
You don't know the half of it. There's only one thing worse than the warp addling the brains of our crew, and that's the warp itself crawling all over our decks. I shouldn't even think about it. It's bad luck. Your orders, Lord Captain.
First, we have to confirm that the bridge and the navigator's sanctum are secure. And I have the means to do both things at once. Edelthrad, where is he? I must know if he is unharmed. A psyker aboard a ship that is potentially being assailed by the warp could pose a greater threat to himself and others than a whole army of madmen with improvised weapons.
I tried to locate him, but the last thing known about his movements is that he arrived on Transitional Deck 18.
Blast it! Master of Whispers, find Edelthrad immediately. Seneschal, locate Tlas and the Sister of Battle. Both are to remain at my side. Arch-Militant, with me. I must go to my study. And it appears we might encounter heretics along the way.
If I may, Lord Captain. Transitional Deck 18 is at the heart of the disturbance, and if our goal is to bring Edelthrad back, I could use some support. After all, I'm not as adept at directly confronting enemies of the House as the esteemed Arch-Militant, and taking into consideration Edelthrad's psyker powers.
And while I myself wouldn't choose to go with Kunrad, I don't believe we have a choice here.
Then it's settled. Find Edelthrad and bring him here. In whatever state you find him. This elevator leads to restricted compartments such as my personal chambers and the bridge. Do not let me down. I require you both. Do you understand?
I can't promise that we won't lose our dearest heir somewhere along the way.
Kunrad, keep an eye on our spirited guest. You are personally responsible. Mort!
And now with Theodora and the Arch-Militant gone, we are unfortunately left with our good friend Kunrad. I'm sure nothing will go wrong here.
Are you ready to head to 18? It is a long walk, and you do not even have proper gear.
Being self-centered, we're going to go with the second option here.
Oh, certainly. Lady Theodora would be devastated if she were to lose one of her precious heirs. but that is no longer relevant.
And I'm sure to no one's surprise, we have been knocked unconscious. And we wake up sometime later in a completely new room, surrounded by more of these cultists.
Careful, careful. Be gentle with our guest. He has an important mission to complete during our visit to the Warrant Chamber. And for that, I need him breathing. Oh, you are back with us, I see. Delightful.
I think calling him two-faced scum is justified here.
You must have hit your head harder than I thought. No matter. Very little is required of you. Just your blood, which you can either share of your own volition, or I will spill it for you. We are in the anteroom of the Warrant Chamber, this void ship's most hallowed vault. There, beyond those gates, lies the relic that gives Theodora all of her power. The sacred Warrant of Trade. Only one obstacle remains on my path to obtaining it. The gates to the chamber are guarded by the Sentinel, an ancient device that will only open the door to a true heir of the dynasty. I expected to do this part myself, but never mind. You will offer your blood to the Sentinel.
I think after all he put us through, we can provoke him a little here.
On the contrary, the Warp's blessing has raised me too much above your kind, fond Valancius. The Sentinel refused to submit to me. But you can help. After all, isn't that what family is for?
Let's see what kind of information we can get from him.
Why? Because I am following an order. What is happening on this ship right now has been in the making for a very long time. All that remains is to obtain what my masters sent me for. The Warrant of Trade.
Let's see if we can play off joining his side and get ourselves out of this mess.
I may consider it, once you have done what I need you to do.
I will help as long as you spare my life.
There's a good boy. Then go to the Sentinel at the gates of the Warrant Chamber and fulfill your destiny. I had hoped to feed Edelthrat to the machine. He is the one who caught Theodora's eye, after all. But since procuring him has proved difficult, you will have to do.
So out of Kunrad's immediate grasp, we find ourselves confronted with a cogitator for access to the Sentinel Chamber. We have another skill-based option here, which we're going to take. And we learned that the cogitator was made with a material that is quite ancient. Let's see if we can find out anything more about the Sentinel. And whilst we're up here, maybe we can find something we can use to fight back. Unfortunately, it looks like that's not the case.
Did you forget something? I suggest you hurry.
With no other options, our only choice is to feed ourselves to this machine.
High levels of caustic humus. The subject is in a state of heightened stress. Do you require assistance?
Who is this?
Genetic code identified. Child of House Valancius. Do you require assistance?
This must be the onset of warp madness.
Request accepted. Initiating defense protocol.
There is still another way.
After that rather impressive show of force, we can finally now move forward into the Warrant Chamber and just make sure that everything is as it should be. Not that we would really know, having this be our first time here, but maybe something sticks out to us. What madness is happening here?
Temporary obnubilation following acute stress. Mobile unit of the Warrant Sentinel standing by. Mobile unit of the Warrant Sentinel designed as a personal escort of the child of the house and a means of communicating with the rogue trader's subjects. Mobile unit standing by.
Let's try to contact Theodora.
Voxcast frequencies disrupted. Initiating setup. Establishing connection.
Voxmaster, restore communication with the Navigator's Sanctum. I am trying to contact the bridge. If anyone can hear me on this frequency, regroup all available forces and head to the upper decks at once. I repeat, regroup all available forces and head...
Communication protocols breached. Signal latency assessment unavailable. Unable to establish two-way connection.
Maybe he can help us find a weapon.
Distance from the current location to the nearest arsenal. Initiating situational calculations.
Alright, let's get out of here.
Middle and upper decks. Assuming the probability of safe placement in areas of concentration of armed units. Calculating. To prevent unauthorized units from breaching the Warrant Chamber, preemptive sealing must be initiated. The mobile unit will start executing the received order immediately after the safety of the warrant is secured.
And now with the Warrant Chamber secure, we can make our way out of here and make sure we close the door after ourselves. And as if things weren't working out for us as it is, we find ourselves in a pretty precarious situation.
Run, fools, or fall!
Lucky for us, the Seneschal just happened to be nearby.
Master, whatever are you doing in the Warrant Chamber? How did you... Throne preserve me, what is the meaning of this?
Let's just make sure he's not working with
Master,
Volkir.
with all due respect, what nonsense are you saying? Kunrad, a traitor?
Be that as it may, I think we should focus more on the mutiny and bringing that to an end.
Indeed. Indeed. That is easier said than done, of course. But seeing one of Lady Theodora's heirs alive inspires at least some degree of optimism. You're in a bad way. I can treat your wounds. I have a Medicaid kit with me. And for the love of the throne, now is not a good time to be walking around the decks without means of self-defense. Here.
Abelard very graciously gives us some starting equipment, an axe for our melee weapon, an auto pistol for our range, some armor, and a medkit. Very helpful. And now we have our first squad member. The squad member in this case being Abelard, who is a bit like myself, very melee focused. We're just going to quickly equip the equipment that he gave us. Fortunately, we can't equip the medkit. Although we can switch over to Abelard, and he can use a medkit on us to heal the wound we got.
That is a noticeable improvement. Now you're prepared for the trials ahead. The lower decks are teeming with heretics instigating the rabble to revolt. But that is the least of our problems. The ship's enforcers are rounding up the scoundrels and suppressing the resistance. The situation on the middle decks is much worse, although strike teams have already been dispatched there. All communication with the bridge and the engineering bay was lost. So, apart from scattered voxcasts, we have no information to go on. But that is not the worst of it all. All these jolts and shaking are most alarming. These are signs that the navigator and the master helmsman are having difficulty translating the ship out of the warp and into real space. I fear that they may have already lost control. We must reach the navigator's sanctum and get a handle on the situation. If we can manage that, some aboard this vessel may yet survive.
Once we have a minute, we'll see what information we can get out of Abelard.
I am no helmsman, or God Emperor preserve me navigator. However, I've spent my entire life aboard void ships equipped with warp drives, and I know that portents such as these do not bode well. It could be that the Gellerfield has faltered. Perhaps the Navigator was struck down by warp corruption and is fighting for the last shreds of his humanity as we speak. If we get thrown off course, we will be forever lost in the war. Naturally, we would likely not have long to live in that scenario. But I will not resign myself to such an outcome just yet.
Let's ask how he found us.
You sent me a Vox message. Specifically, a Vox cast on the officer's frequency, which I had the good fortune to receive. You mean to say you did no such thing?
I did not, so it must have been the Warrant Sentinel that did that.
Warrant Sentinel? The Lord Captain barely ever ventures down to the chamber, and I was at her side only once or twice when she did. And I did not see anything of the sort. The Warrant Chamber is an ancient and rather sacred mechanism that the ship's tech priests treat with the utmost reverence. I assume that whatever it is that you did, you must have activated certain processes and caused the Sentinel to awaken. But then, why did none of it happen when Lady Theodora did the same?
Let's get back to the task at hand.
During warp transit, the Sanctum is closed to all who are not involved in traversing the Imperium. And for good reason. For the Navigator to open their third eye and perceive the way, the Sanctum must be bathed in the energies of the immaterial. Only a Navigator can withstand such an ordeal. For the rest of us, any contact with the warp is fraught with perils such as loss of sanity, spontaneous mutations, and death.
I heard one of Theodora's Vox casts.
Lady Theodora's. Which one? The last one I received was about the Navigator's Sanctum, and that was a good while ago. In any case, let us hope that the Lord Captain is well, and safely in charge of the ship's defense. In the meantime, we must do all we can to prevent the ship from veering off course.
I couldn't agree more. Let's go to the Navigator Sanctum.
Absolutely. Let us proceed. The Lord Captain is calling her crew to battle, which means the Vox networks are set up for broadcast transmission, not message exchange. Splendid. While the rogue trader inspires proper resolve to fight in her subjects, you and I shall prove that her trust in us is well deserved. Onward.
And it seems like we just can't catch a break today, as more cultists rush in to attack us. In this combat, we finally have full control, and we can choose the starting positions. As both characters are melee focused, we'll move them a little bit closer, but make sure not too close so they can't use their charge ability. With that, we'll start the battle, and the cultists will act first. Unfortunately for us, they get so close that we cannot use our charge abilities. Whilst I could swing and hit both of these heretics right away, I think it's more important that we use our Iron Arm ability first to buff ourselves, and then we'll swing and see if we can't kill them. Fortunately, one of them parries. That's all for us, and now the remaining heretics will act, all moving in close once again.
I serve the ruinous powers!
Just a minor setback. Brace yourself, Abelard.
And now for Abelard's turn, we'll start by using a Brace for Impact buff. And then we'll very quickly just cleave these three heretics.
I will do
Luckily for us, we managed to kill 2 of the 3. And now, whilst our charge ability is available, unfortunately, none of these enemies are within range of using it.
I am your doom.
Luckily for us, the heretic cutthroat shoots his ally, and then the other heretics will go through their melee attacks again, and we will once again use our cleave to see if we can finish off some more of these. Fortunately for us, that doesn't seem to be the case.
My resolve is unshaken.
With Abelard, then we can strike the heretic in front of us, and finally make use of our charge to get to the ranged heretic. Thankfully for us, the heretic decides it needs to move away, and we get an attack of opportunity. After another round of strikes from the heretics in front of us, we're going to once again cleave the 3 enemies, and this time we managed to take out 2 of them. The last one unfortunately does parry. With Abelard, we can then charge in, kill the ranged heretic, and then finally take out the last cutthroat. And there was our first non-scripted combat encounter, and with that, both characters have leveled up. We're going to very quickly loot all of the corpses first.
Embrace true power.
And now we will go through with leveling up our characters. Unfortunately, the first level isn't very exciting. It's usually just a standard skill increase. For ourselves, we're going to take the Carouse option because it is a stat we're going to try and prioritize with this character. For Abelard, on the other hand, we are going to take Athletics. And with that, our characters have been leveled up. Now we come to a natural ending point for today's video. It was a long one, with quite a bit of dialogue to get through. Once we've made it through the prologue, things should open up a bit more and get a little bit more exciting. As always, I'm open to feedback. I wasn't quite sure the best way to handle dialogue, and once we get out of the prologue, a lot of the boxes aren't voiced. So if you'd rather see brief summaries of conversations instead of the whole conversation, please do let me know. If you have any feedback regarding the pacing or general editing of the video, please also don't hesitate to comment. As this was my first video, I did quite a bit of it haphazardly, so any pointers are much appreciated. And with that, I would like to thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please feel free to like the video and subscribe. I plan to release a new video in this series at least once per week. Again, thank you for watching, and goodbye.